Hey folks, Nick here from another BookTube channel. Today, showing you the first comic book that I ever read. This is the comic that started me on my journey into the medium, and it's something that you might not expect because, as you can see, it's Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Season 8, Issue number 1, by Joss Whedon and Jeanty. This came about because let's see, what was I? I was probably like 20 years old or so. Like, I didn't start reading comics until I was basically out of college. And it was because I had watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer for the first time, and I loved it. And it's still my favorite show. I've made many videos about it on this channel. And I was online and I was, Googling why there was no season 8 or why, did it get canceled? Did they end it? Whatever. And I found there is a season 8 in comic book form. I said, ooh, it's kind of interesting. Let me look into that. So I went and I went to the local comic shop, JHU Comics, for the first time ever. First time of many trips over the course of the next 10 or so years. And I bought this big boy. This is the library edition of Season 8, Volume 1. And I got all of the library editions for Season 8 and Season 9. And it was good. There's a lot of issues that I have with the storyline that they chose to go with. But one thing that stuck with me was the medium. I instantly was interested in comics as a storytelling medium. It was my first time ever reading comics. Despite the fact that in the 90s, when I was a child, my father owned a comic book store. Would you believe that? He owned a comic book store during the comics boom. I didn't read a single comic ever from his store. We had comics that were left over after the business went under. We had it in our laundry room in the basement for years, and I never read a single one. We sold all of them in a yard sale. And then after college, I suddenly decided comics were going to be my favorite hobby in the world. Talk about being late to the party. But yeah, I thought I'd just flip through this. Again, pencils, Georges Jeanty, inks by Andy Owens. This is the only project that I know either of those names from, but it's written by Joss Whedon. So he is the problematic creator of the original series. And the first arc is called The Long Way Home. This is part 1, and it picks up right where the show, well, maybe not right where the show left off. There is quite a bit of imagination to get from season 7's closing to this, because as you can see, Buffy is now basically has a secret special ops team of other Slayers that they're going on missions, and they've got equipment. They've got fancy guns. They've got helicopters. They've got some budget, I guess, which is a very different, bit of an upgrade to their operation. And in terms of an opening for a story, really great way to start. You've got a extreme zoom out of the Earth with the caption, "The thing about changing the world, once you do it, the world's all different." Good little Buffy line to start things off. And then we have action right away. We have a nice spread page of our hero jumping into the fray. Now, this isn't the first Buffy comic. There were Buffy comics for years before this. This is just the first that officially continued the series. Everything else was like a tie-in, or just like extended universe or canon or extended canon or non-canon. I don't know. I haven't read any of those. But it's a really good story. This is my first time rereading it in some time, and I really liked Georges Jeanty's layouts. I think he does some really fun stuff with his compositions. This kind of panel spread reminds me of George Perez, what he would do for New Teen Titans, just the tall vertical panels. And again, good action shots. The Slayers are infiltrating this church. There's some kind of threat inside. So we're mid-mission. We're picking up right at the start, not wasting any time. We do get a glimpse back at the headquarters where Xander is her new watcher. I hate Xander. But go ahead and watch my Buffy unpopular opinion, Buffy hot takes video for all the reasons why I cannot stand Xander and what I wish they would have done with his character. But he is back in headquarters giving giving orders to this team that they have. Again, we don't know how they got all of this equipment and this new location that they're at. Sorry about the glare, by the way. I can't really do anything about that. I'll try to hold up the pages when I can. I like the layout of this page where we have Buffy's foot kicking the door off its hinges, which draws our eyes across the page. From beneath that door, we now see the doorway where they enter, and our eyes naturally flow back down where we can now see the threat. I love a good page flow, good page composition. And Buffy runs in, starts the attack, and the first thing that happens to her is she gets knocked over into this crucifix that gets knocked down. And that's important. Good little setup, little visual setup. I like the use of color here where it's the only yellow on the page, like big bright yellow. So it kind of brings attention to that action and also brings attention to that cross. Monsters turn their eyes on the other Slayers, who get rescued from even more Slayers who are outside the window. And now we've got Buffy, who's picked up that cross that she slammed into, and uses that as the new murder weapon. And good Buffy banter. The draw of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, one of the many draws, is that Spider-Man-esque kind of banter in the face of danger that Joss Whedon took from Marvel Comics. So this monster says that, stupid human, I am no vampire. You think I fear the cross? She jams it through his head, and she says, might want to start. Good. Feels like it would be in the show. And you've got Joss writing this first issue, so it makes sense that it would kind of have that feeling. The threat is dealt with, but there are some dead bodies with this mysterious mark on their chest. So now that's teasing what's going to be the main storyline throughout the rest of this season of the series. And we have a good pan out through this window where we could see somebody floating in midair, looking down at them. We don't see who it is, but we can equate that that's going to be a bad guy. That's going to be somebody responsible for this marking on the chest. So really good visual storytelling. We're cutting away now to the army, who are talking about the Slayers as a kind of like terrorists sleeper cell or splinter cell, that they're well funded and they're not working in cooperation with the American government. And they're investigating Sunnydale. This is what's left of Sunnydale after season 7. It collapsed into a giant hole. It's just nothing but a crater left. And the American military are investigating to find something down there. Who knows what they're really looking for? Some kind of mystical readings. This guy who's down there gets no readings of what's going on, but we got some cool silhouetted hands reaching towards him, and we get a vague. I like the reflection in the mask there. I'm sure it's a digital effect to kind of make that work, but cool little overlap. It's probably drawing two separate pictures and then just laying them on top of each other in Photoshop. And now we're cutting back to headquarters. They're looking at the symbol that was carved on the victim's chest and just trying to figure out what it could possibly mean. And Xander says, Buffy, you should really talk to your sister Dawn. She's going through some issues. Those issues are pretty big. Dawn is pretty big. Dawn is a giant. For some reason, in the dialogue, there's a reference to her getting involved in a relationship with the wrong person. So likely that's the cause. But Dawn and Buffy are sisters, and they're once again, they're continuing their relationship of not being great at talking to each other. Buffy kind of avoids Dawn. Dawn doesn't want to talk to Buffy about what she's going through. She'd rather talk to Willow. So a lot of that sister banter from the show carries over here as well. And this is a fun page. This is a fun spread of Buffy walking through while Dawn is the stationary point of the panel. I don't know what this is called. Like when with this kind of layout where it's multiple panels broken up, but it's one static image, but one character is moving throughout it. There's probably a name for that. And it's always fun when it comes up, when it's executed well. I think it's a striking image, and I like Georges Jeanty's compositions, and I like the ink. What was it, Andy Owens? Yeah, I think they do a pretty good job. Buffy's lamenting. They're in a castle in Scotland, which we get the reveal of this big pan out from her face. Again, not sure how they end up in this Scottish castle. Very different from being basically broke and homeless after season 7. But they figured it out. I don't remember the rest of the rest of this season, like what kind of explanations we get. It's been forever since I've read it. So yeah, I don't know. You just kind of take it as a matter of course. At least I did when I first read it. If you're, I don't know about you, your mileage may vary. We're cutting back to the military. They have pulled some survivors out from the wreckage of Sunnydale, and and they are disgusting. We don't get to see who's behind this door, but we get to see the general's reaction to it. So that's a little teasing us of like, for future issues, come back, see who's behind that door. And they move over to another door that has some light peering through it. And this is another survivor who's asking for help, asking for access to magical hardware, a lab for her boyfriend, quote unquote, full immunity, yada yada, if she helps them take down Buffy Summers. Also, she wants a lot of cheese. And why does she want a lot of cheese? Who could this possibly be? The reveal is that it is Amy, formerly Amy the Rat, from the series. She survived, and who knows what she's got in the store. That's it. Really simple issue. And this was enough. This was enough for me to say, yeah, I can get into this. I can get into this type of storytelling. I can get into this medium. And yeah, I mean, I read all of Buffy season 8. And then I believe I continued on with other Joss Whedon comics. So there was Dollhouse comics. There was like one Dollhouse series for like 6 issues. I read that. That was okay. And then I moved into his Astonishing X-Men run. And that was really my first dip into superhero comics. If I'm recalling my timeline correctly, I believe that's how it went. But yeah, it all started here. And now, I mean, this is, a kind of ephemera to me. I got this issue kind of recently. I've only ever had the library editions. But since then, my tastes have changed considerably. I know a lot more about comics and comic history and what makes a comic good than I used to. So I don't know if season 8 would hold up if I read the whole thing through today. Maybe I will revisit it. But it was enough. This made me fall in love with the medium. So let me know your thoughts. If you've read this comic, let me know your thoughts about it in the comments below. And let me know what your first comic was, if you remember that. I'm very curious what got you in to the medium. Thank you very much for spending some time with me today. But now it's time to get back to reading.